Hello viewers, welcome to my channel. I'm Shini Orongan, a student of Bachelor of Science and Hospitality Management, Section 2C. So allow me to introduce the rest of my group mates from Group 3.
I am Adrian Jade Arabiho.
My name is Eunice J. Arscado.
This is Reina Amor Ocon.
My name is Ron Kitesto.
My name is Josh Byron A. Swan.
Well, let's get started. Today, we'll explore the two most influential ethical theories, the utilitarian and the pragmatic ethics. Every day, we make choices, some big, some small. But how do we decide what's right or wrong? Behind these decisions are the powerful ideas that shapes our values and action. In this discussion, we'll know what these theories mean, the thinkers and philosophers of each theory, and how they play out or influence on how people make decisions and judge right from wrong. So what is utilitarianism? Based on research, utilitarianism stated that pleasure is good, and the goodness of one's action is determined by its usefulness. So what does it mean? So we act and do something because it gives us pleasure. If it does not give us pleasure, then we don't do anything about it. That's the idea of the utilitarianism. But too much pleasure can also give us pain. Aristotle believed that happiness, or eudaimonia, as an ultimate goal for human endeavor. He argues that everything people do, seeking wealth, success, knowledge, or pleasure, is ultimately aimed at achieving happiness. So happiness is the ultimate goal of a person in life. Dili lang happiness nga temporary like malipay ka tungod kay nakakaon ka og lami nga pagkaon or nalipay ka kay nakadawat ka og regalo. Para kay Aristotle, true happiness is living a life of virtue. Ingon siya nga tanang butang nga atong buhaton is naa gyud reason, and that ultimate purpose is to be happy. Pero dili lang kay lingaw-lingaw. It's more about on becoming a better version of yourself, using your reason and doing good things consistently. Also, happiness is not something that you feel, it's something that you live. So, unsa may connect ani niya sa atong topic karon, which is the utilitarianism and the pragmatic ethics. So while the center of this three theory is the idea of happiness, their approaches on how it should be achieved differs through Aristotle's virtue. Utilitarian is maximizing utility and pragmatism is through practical results. Utilitarianism is a philosophical theory that helps us decide how to evaluate actions or choices based on their outcomes or consequences. So gipasabot ani, if our action kay makahatag og more happiness or positive effects sa kadaghanan, maoy maayo nga buhaton. It is a consequentialist theory, meaning that it focuses on the results of an action rather than the action themselves or the intentions behind them. Hedonism is a part of utilitarianism, which is originally focuses on individual pleasure, but utilitarianism extends this idea to the pleasure of the entire group or society. The founding father of utilitarianism is Jeremy Bentham, who argued that we should always aim to maximize happiness and minimize suffering for the most people possible. Utilitarianism. In general, whatever is being evaluated, we ought to choose the one that will produce the best overall results. In the language of utilitarian, we should choose the option that maximizes utility. It doesn't focus on the individual benefit alone, but on the overall impact on all people involved. For example, if you're deciding whether to donate money in a charity or buying a luxury item for yourself, utilitarianism would suggest donating if it helps more people and creates overall happiness.
The central idea, according to utilitarianism, is that one should always act in such a way us to bring about the greatest amount of happiness possible for those who are affected by one's actions. This principle is known as utility or greatest happiness principle. The greatest happiness of the greatest number.
Example in the series Robin Hood, as well known, Robin Hood steals property from the rich and gives them to the poor. From the point of view of Christian ethics, Robin Hood's action is immoral because it deprives the rich of the right that is due to them. However, from the point of view of utilitarianism, Robin Hood's action is morally good because it produces maximum benefits to the majority of the people. In general, whatever is being evaluated, we ought to choose the one that will produce the best overall results. In the language of utilitarian, we should choose the option that maximizes utility. Another example.
Car accident. A doctor witnesses a car accident. In the car, there are three people. Number one, a pregnant woman. Number two, the young woman's husband. Number three, the woman's father. All have an equal chance of survival, but he can only save two persons in time. One person is bound to die. If the doctor was a utilitarian, he would save the pregnant woman first. This is because she and the baby would have the happiness or pleasure of two people. The husband would be next because the happiness of a new family would outweigh the happiness of one man. The old man would be left because he has had his portion of happiness. The doctor chooses based on who contribute to more future happiness, not just who is important emotionally. Utilitarianism is outcome focused. It doesn't look at intentions or rules as much as it looks at what results from your action and whether those results maximize the happiness and reduce suffering. Jeremy Bentham. He was an English philosopher, jurist, and social reformer. He prepared to be of a child prodigy. While still a toddler, he was discovered sitting at his father's desk, reading a multi-volume history of England, and he began to study Latin at the age of 3. He received his bachelor's degree at 15 years old and master's degree at 18 years old. Wrote the Principles of Morals and Legislation in 1789, in which he proposed his ethical theory of utilitarianism.
Fundamentals of utilitarian. The community is a fictitious body composed of individual persons who are considered as constituting, as it were, its member. Every individual's utility counts. So Bentham founded the philosophical theory of utilitarian, which posits that actions are right if they promote the greatest happiness for the greatest number of people. So he argued that pleasure and pain are the fundamentals, motivators of human actions, and that moral decisions should be based on their consequences. Bentham's advocate for various social reform, including education, and prison reform, and the protection of individual rights. So, Bentham's has 7 quantitative. First is intensity, duration, certainty, extent, propinquity, fecundity, and purity. Intensity, which means how strong is it. Duration, how long does it last. Certainty, how likely is it to happen. Extent, the number of people affected by it. Propinquity, how near at hand is it. Fecundity, how likely is it to produce. Last is purity, how free from pain is it. So these are the methods of quantifying pleasure and pain. This also helps evaluate the overall value of pleasure and pain, guiding decision-making and moral judgments. So Mill's utilitarian. Mills has intellectual pleasure and physical pleasure. Then G.S. Mill or John Stuart Mill argued that actions are right if they promote happiness and wrong if they produce the reverse, but also emphasize the importance of individual liberty and autonomy. So first, the intellectual pleasure refers to the enjoyment and satisfaction engaging in mentality and can be valued aspect of cognitive development. And the physical pleasure refers to enjoyable physical sensation and contributing to overall well-being. So there are two definitions between Bentham's and John Stuart Mill. Bentham's quantity pleasure, or based on Bentham's, all pleasure are of equal value. Based on John Stuart Mill, quality of pleasure, better to be a dissatisfied human being than a pig satisfied, and better to be Socrates dissatisfied than a fool satisfied.
Bentham's and Mill's views on pleasure. Bentham introduced the idea of maximizing pleasure and minimizing pain. He emphasized the quantity of pleasure. Essentially, all pleasures are equal of value. Imagine, you're faced with the choice of eating ice cream or reading a novel. For Bentham, the better choice is the one that gives you the most overall happiness, regardless of the type of the pleasure. However, Mill took this idea further. Mill highlighted the quality of pleasure, introducing the concept of higher and lower pleasures. According to Mill, intellectual and moral pleasures, like reading a thought-provoking book, are superior to purely physical ones, such as eating ice cream. He argued better to be a dissatisfied human than being a satisfied pig, meaning that experiencing higher quality pleasures enriches our lives in ways that mere physical pleasure cannot. Utilitarianism involves assessing a situation individually. For example, imagine you find someone's wallet. An utilitarian will consider whether returning the wallet or using the money for charity will create more happiness in the specific case. The action that brings the most happiness will be the correct one. Role utilitarianism, on the other hand, general rules that usually lead to the greatest happiness. In the wallet example, a role utilitarian will argue that following the rule always return lost property creates a society based on trust and kindness, which ultimately benefits everyone, even if the specific outcome doesn't maximize the happiness in this instance.
Is a philosophical approach that evaluates theories of beliefs in terms of the success of their practical application. It emphasizes the usefulness and practical impact of ideas and action as abstract principle. In essence, if a concept or action works well in practice, it is considered valid of truth. So, example of this is wearing sneakers. Even though your new high heels looks great, you choose sneakers for the walking because they're more comfortable. Next example is using a map app. Even if you believe in the value of navigating, be a memory, you use a map app to avoid getting lost when you're in hurry. Intellectual activity is a meaningful friction of mind, intelligent thinking. So types of intellectual activity is reading and writing. Reading and writing, engaging with literature, articles, and other writtens. Problem solving. Solving puzzles, conducting in scientific experiment, or engaging in strategic games. Wearing new skills, learning new skills, taking classes, learning a language, or acquiring a new craft. Creative. So, pre-thinkers. William James, Charles Sanders Peirce, John Dewey. So William James was an American philosopher and psychologist. James is considered to be a leading thinker of the late 19th century, one of the most influential philosophers of the United States. Next is Charles Sanders Peirce, who was an American scientist, mathematician, and philosopher who is sometimes known as the father of pragmatism. According to philosopher Ball Weiss, Peirce was the most original and versatile of America's philosophers. Next is John Dewey, who was an American philosopher, psychologist, and educational performer. He was one of the most prominent American scholars in the first of the 20th century.
Pragmatism is a way of looking at truth based on what works or what brings good results on our experience. When we say something is true, it's because it has been effective or useful for us. So, if we face a problem in human behavior, we could ask, would doing this action solve the problem? If yes, then it might be the right thing to do. Truth and goodness are connected. What is good or useful to believe is considered true in this view.
A child keeps fighting with classmates, showing a clear behavioral problem. A caring teacher decides to take action. She believes that kindness can make a difference. She talks to the child kindly and explains things clearly, hoping to encourage better behavior. After a few days, the child starts showing improvement and becomes nicer to classmates. Now the child is getting along with others, demonstrating the power of kindness.
The way to discover what is morally right or wrong is the same as when seeking truth. A good action is the one that works to solve a given problem. For a pragmatist, there is no fixed, unchanging world just waiting to be revealed by experience.
Both approaches value outcomes and effectiveness but differ in their methods and priorities. Um, utilit- utilitarianism can be criticized for potential sacrificing individual rights or interests for the greater good. Pragmatism can be criticized for lacking a clear moral framework or principles. Why does this matter in our world? Understanding utilitarian and pragmatic ethics matters because it informs decision making, promotes well being, and helps address complex issues, ultimately shaping policies, laws, and social norms that impacts individual and communities.
Utilitarianism focuses on maximizing overall happiness or well-being. Actions are right if they promote the greatest good for the greatest number of people. The key figures are Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. Two types of utilitarianism is the act utilitarianism and rule utilitarianism. Pragmatic ethics emphasizes practicality and effectiveness on decision making, focuses on experimentation, experiences, and context-dependent solutions. Key figures are William James and John Dewey. Prioritizes flexible, adaptive approaches to ethics, considering multiple perspectives. Both perspectives share some similarities, such as a focus on outcomes and consequences. However, utilitarianism tends to prioritize overall happiness, while pragmatic ethics emphasizes practical, context-dependent decision-making. Instead, they believe that the world and our understanding of it is constantly changing. So the goal is not to find some eternal truth, but to continually search for solutions that work for the problems we face. Truth in this view is not absolute, it evolves based on what helps us live better and solve real-life challenges. Pragmatism does not provide absolute or unchanging moral principles. It does not claim that there is answer for all people and all times. Instead, morality depends on context, experience, and what works in a given situation. We must always act based on hypotheses and ideas we think will work to solve a problem. But this involves subjective evaluation we judge based on personal values, goals, and the specific situation. What is right can change depending on the outcome and the people involved. For example, an action might be considered moral in one culture or situation, another, depending on what result it brings. Ethics is not just theory, it's something we live every day. In today's fast changing world, pragmatism and utilitarianism remind us that ethics is not just about following fixed rules. It's about making thoughtful choices that lead to positive outcomes for ourselves and others. Think about your daily choices, the way you speak to others, how you help or ignore someone in need, the way you spend your time or your energy. These are ethical decisions. They show what you value and who you care about. Thank you, and may your choices today reflect the kind of world you want to help create.